In the city of Moyo, where designer bags swung heavier than morals and gossip flowed smoother than rooftop cocktails, Jabali and Nuru were the couple. Power, style, wealth. Their photos lit up social media like billboards of black excellence, and together they co-owned a thriving logistics company. He was the charming CEO with a diamond smile, and she was the brilliant beauty behind the books. Together, they ran an empire. Jabali was tall, charismatic, and charming in that dangerous way. He was always sharply dressed, knew every waiter by name, and had a laugh that made women lean closer. Nuru was his opposite, composed, intelligent, and stunning in a quiet, magnetic way. She had built the business with him from scratch. While Jabali shook hands and charmed clients, Nuru read contracts and balanced the books. Their empire stood on her brains and his boldness. But behind closed doors, Jabali had a habit, a disease really. He was a serial cheater, the kind whose wedding ring was more of a prop than a promise. To the world, he was a devoted husband, tagging Nuru in anniversary posts and showing up at charity galas with her hand on his arm. But the moment the cameras were off, Jabali became someone else. Hotel rooms booked under fake names, office interns promoted with a little too much enthusiasm. His phone buzzed day and night with suggestive emojis, disappearing messages, and late-night, "Babe, I miss you," texts. None of them from his wife. It didn't matter if the woman was a waitress, a client, or a bored influencer looking for sponsorship. Jabali chased novelty like a man starved, always reaching, always risking. And no matter how many times Nuru forgave him, smiled for the cameras, or welcomed him home with a warm plate of jollof and grace, he always found a way to betray her again. Because for Jabali, cheating wasn't an accident, it was routine. Nuru had forgiven him before, once, twice, too many times. Each time, Jabali would break down with performative guilt, crocodile tears glistening in the corners of his eyes, voice cracking as he swore on his mother's grave, the Bible, and the bones of his ancestors that he would change. He'd stage dramatic apologies with flowers, handwritten letters, even expensive weekend getaways, just to rebuild trust. But people like Jabali don't change. They get clever. He started deleting his chats, saving side chicks' numbers under fake names like Paul Mechanic or Brian Architect. He kept a second phone, supposedly for business emergencies. He became more calculated, using Snapchat because the messages vanished, meeting women far from town, and mostly cheating when Nuru was out of the country for work. He thought he was a mastermind, slick, untouchable. After all, he always came back home, always smiled in family photos, always made sure to hold Nuru's waist in public, as if possession was proof of loyalty. But what Jabali didn't know, it clearly stated that, in the event of infidelity, the guilty party would forfeit all shared marital assets. No loopholes, no negotiations, just a signature and the truth. And Nuru, she had also become clever and wasn't just watching anymore. She was done crying into silk pillowcases, while Jabali claimed it meant nothing. Done listening to half-baked apologies, followed by romantic dinners that were more guilt offerings than genuine remorse. Confrontation had become a dance, predictable, exhausting, and, worst of all, useless. So she switched tactics. She stopped asking questions, stopped checking his phone, stopped accusing. Instead, she smiled when he left the house, kissed his cheek when he said he'd be working late. She played her part perfectly. The loyal wife with a forgiving heart and no suspicions. And in the silence he mistook for submission, Nuru began to build her case. She backed up screenshots, took photos of unfamiliar perfume bottles in his car, noted down license plate numbers outside hotel lobbies. She created a hidden folder on her laptop labeled Taxes, where she stored everything, even voice recordings of late-night phone calls when he forgot to lower his tone. But her most brilliant move, she became someone else entirely, online. She created a fake Instagram account, named herself Kayla, profile, model, Nabby-based, loved men with ambition. She followed Jabali, liked a few posts, slid into his DMs with a wink and a, "Hey, handsome." Jabali fell for it within 2 hours. Soon, they were chatting every night, Jabali pouring out his complaints. My wife is cold. She doesn't understand me. I need passion. Kayla laughed, flirted, sent fake selfies. He had no idea that the gorgeous stranger, stroking his ego, was the same woman folding his socks at home. Nuru saved everything. Screenshots, voice notes, plans for hotel meetups. When Jabali finally begged to meet Kayla in person, she agreed. They picked a luxury rooftop hotel room uptown. The morning of their meetup, Jabali dressed to kill, new shirt, cologne, full smile in the mirror. He told Nuru he will be home late because he had a late business dinner with investors. She had nodded sweetly, kissed his cheek. Nuru arrived an hour early, dressed in a body-hugging dress, a different hairstyle, bold makeup, and heels Jabali hadn't seen in years. The receptionist, who had been looped into her plan with a little tip and a knowing smile, welcomed her without question. Inside the room, she set up her trap carefully, wine glasses on the table, her phone recording on silent mode, and a second device hidden behind a decorative plant to catch another angle, visual and audio. She sat on the edge of the couch, legs crossed, calm and ready. Tonight wasn't about catching a cheater. It was about ending a lie, with style, strategy, and receipts. So when Jabali arrived at the hotel, his confidence was sky high. He handed the valet his keys with a wink, adjusted his watch, and smoothed down his shirt like a man preparing for seduction. He even paused in the lobby mirror to fix his collar. Unaware he was fixing himself for disaster, he took the elevator up to the room with a smirk, one hand in his pocket, rehearsing some cheesy line he'd drop as soon as Kayla opened the door. He knocked twice. The door creaked open. But it wasn't Kayla waiting with cocktails. It was Nuru. Not the Nuru he knew, not the quietly heartbroken wife he'd lied to for years. She was in a sleek black dress, her makeup was flawless. Her expression, calm, not angry, just still, controlled, like a judge waiting for the accused to take the stand. In the dim hotel lighting, she looked like a stranger, radiant, composed, unrecognizable in the best way. She didn't flinch. She didn't scream. She just raised her glass, took a slow sip, and said, "Surprise." Jabali froze, the color draining from his face. His mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. The woman he'd lied to, the woman he'd betrayed, the woman he'd underestimated, was standing in front of him, in the very room he'd planned to cheat in. The air felt thick. For the first time in a long time, Jabali had nothing clever to say. Because this wasn't just a confrontation, this was the finale. He stammered, "Nuru, what are you doing here?" She smiled, not kindly, not cruelly, just knowingly. "I could ask you the same, Jabali," she said, folding her hands. "But let's not waste time pretending." He tried to laugh it off, tried to spin, but his voice cracked under the weight of it. You set me up?" "No," she said, her voice cool as steel. "You set yourself up. I just gave you a mirror." Then she passed him a manila folder placed on the table, thick, heavy, years' worth of screenshots, printed messages, dates, receipts, voice recordings, and even photos. His face paled. "I have forgiven you countless times because I loved you and wanted to save our marriage, but you have always taken me for granted. A time comes when one says, enough is enough, and this is the time for me." "You remember our marriage contract, don't you?" she asked, casually flipping through a few pages. "The clause about infidelity, the one you insisted on because you thought I'd be the one to stray." Jabali's stomach twisted. That clause, the one that stated, "Whoever is caught cheating forfeits all shared property, no exceptions." "Congratulations," she said. "You've just lost everything, the cars, the land, the company, oh, and the house. Pack quickly and move out. I will be changing the locks." Jabali stammered, "Wait, babe, let's talk." But Nuru looked at him in disgust, kissed him on the cheek and said, "We already did. You just didn't know it was me." And with that, she turned and walked away. Heels echoing on the polished floor, dignity intact, power reclaimed. Jabali slumped into a seat, drowning in the silence he once gifted her so many times. Because he didn't just lose his wife that day, he lost to her. The divorce was swift. There were no messy arguments in court because the prenup, the very one Jabali had once called just paperwork, was airtight. It clearly stated that in the event of infidelity, the guilty party would forfeit all shared marital assets. No loopholes, no negotiations, just a signature and the truth. And Jabali? He had given the court more than enough proof, thanks to the screenshots, messages, and even the hotel room setup. Jabali left the courtroom with his name still echoing through the corridors, not in admiration, but in disbelief. The city whispered for weeks. Some called her savage, others called her brilliant, but everyone agreed on one thing. He had played many women, but in the end, the only game he truly lost was the one against Nuru. After the divorce, Jabali tried to rebuild. He moved into a small rented apartment above a noisy bar in the outskirts of Moyo, far from the polished skyline he once called home. He spent his evenings staring at his cracked phone screen, scrolling through old photos, replaying what-ifs, and nursing the reality that he had destroyed his kingdom chasing attention. No more Sunday brunches, no more business-class flights, just take-out meals, missed calls, and the cold sting of regret. He tried calling Siri, one of his old flings, but she blocked him. He tried opening another company. No one invested. Most of his former clients followed Nuru. She had been the brains, the grace, and now the face of everything successful. He tried to spin the story his way, said she had tricked him, set him up, poisoned the court. But people just laughed. Because in a city like Moyo, reputation travels fast, and Jabali's was now branded in bold letters: cheater, loser, outplayed. And Nuru, she flourished. She opened a second branch of their former company, now under her name. She became a quiet icon of strength, not because she screamed her pain, but because she handled betrayal like a queen with receipts and a strategy. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe.